Hello, and welcome to a Zen Master episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us today, a man who needs no introduction, owner of CanAm Tools, Wolfgang Dombrowski, and I discuss a myriad of awesome topics, including how he got involved with CanAm Tools. We also discuss aspects of creating tools and why that appealed to him, running a business, and what it means to be successful.
One of my neighbors, he was a construction guy, and he and I made friends. He used to see my lights on late at night, and I'd be working my buns off like everybody else does.
Yeah.
And I remember he came over one day and chit-chatted. He says, there used to be a guy just across the alley from us here that started this company, and he made tools in his garage, just a few doors down from where I was. Of course, he was gone by that time, but so he said, yeah, he moved into St. Albert in one of the towns, and he says he's got a shop there, and I think he's still making these things. You should go see him. So I kind of put that on the back burner, never really thought too much about it. And
not only is Wolfgang an amazing guy to discuss drywall and tools with, but he was generous enough to help out the Drywall Podcast and sponsor the months of March and April. CanAm Tools, industry-leading tools that help professionals around the world save time and money. Now, for these months of March and April, you have the opportunity to get your hands on these awesome tools at a discounted price. If you go to canamtools.com and enter promo code TDP15, you can receive a discount on these tools. CanAm Tools is also celebrating 50 years of excellence as the original and leading inventor of the semi-automatic drywall finishing tool. Their line of tools is centered around the compound tube, one of the most versatile tools on the market. The Drywall Podcast is also brought to you by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. If you're in Canada or globally, you can get your hands on some Fresco Harmony by going to csrbuilding.com. You can get them there. But for now, Wolfgang Dombrowski on the 44th episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. We have the great and powerful Wolfgang Dombrowski, owner of CanAm Tools, a young 69, with us on the Drywall Podcast today. It took a while, but we got you here.
Yeah, we got here. Finally, better late than never, right?
Yeah, and the audio's good, and the screen iPad thing is good, so everything is fine. How are you doing today?
Better than I deserve.
Wolfgang Dombrowski. First of all, you probably have one of the coolest names in the industry. I'm sure you've heard that before. To me, Wolfgang is kind of like, I was telling Brad Hanna, I was like, Wolfgang is kind of like the Buddha of drywall. Wolfgang reached out to me a little while, I think after the Columbia interview, and you were interested in the podcast, and you were really curious, right after that, you're like, who is it? So had you listened to a couple podcasts by that time? How did you find out about me? That's kind of interesting.
Well, I think probably on Instagram, I must have seen a few of the reviews or the trailers, that had been put up. And
okay,
that's probably how I started to recognize you. And then, as I think I told you, I phoned you that day, or I timed you. And
yeah,
I think you'd interviewed Columbia, and I said, hey, I'm always on their coattails anyway, so I thought, let's find out what that was all about. And
sure.
and, introduced myself, and course, I didn't know anything about Fresco Harmony to my dis I apologize for that, but I know a
That's
lot more
okay.
now.
Well, I mean, when you're marketing on a shoestring budget, it's hard to get, I've tried lots of different methods,
Yeah.
and the drywall podcast was really a shot in the dark, but the response has been amazing, and the community that it's building has really been a byproduct of, originally marketing, a product. But what's happened is that I've gotten to meet a lot of fantastic drywallers, gotten connected, met lots of great people, yourself included. And what a tremendous byproduct of something that, honestly, my friends were like, "You're nuts. That just seems like a huge waste of time." And I was like, whatever. There isn't a drywall podcast out there. We'll give it a whirl, see how it goes.
I think you're doing an amazing job. I really do.
Thank
I think
you.
you're naturally talented for this as well. So hang in there, and I think you'll do well.
Yeah, and thank you. And it's fun, and it's very interesting to not, I think everybody has a story, and listening to Drywaller's story for me, and I've heard this feedback from other people, it helps me connect with that little part of myself that's like, you're less than because you're a drywaller. And the biggest thing I think that I've learned is that that's not the case. A lot of people choose this trade because they're attracted to the medium and they're attracted to this industry. And I think that's really what's being illuminated. Like, this isn't like something that you just do because you couldn't find anything else to do. It takes a tremendous amount of energy and skill and stick-to-itiveness to get to the point of journeyman, in this trade.
Well, that takes a lot of skill, a lot of training, a lot of hours, a lot of
Yeah,
dedication, like any trade, right? It's no less, no more. It may be an easier one to get into initially, but
right.
it's still a lot of work and effort and dedication to be good at it, like anything.
Yeah, like anything. And did you start listening to the podcast after that? Are you an avid listener? Where are you at with all of that?
I haven't listened to all of them. I've listened to a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, handful. Did you happen to catch Myron Ferguson's podcast?
I probably caught a bit of it. I may not have watched all of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's actually been to our location and actually hired him a couple of times to do some work for us at the trade shows. So yeah, we know each other pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, you like that one. And if you don't know Wolfgang, he's just the nicest guy. He's exactly the same in person as he is on camera. And you admitted, we talked a little bit, you admitted this isn't really your cup of tea. You're more of a background owner of your business. And I appreciate you coming on here and being with us today. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are interested in your story and the story of CanAm Tools and how this whole thing came to be. But before that, I was poking around on Google and I found your LinkedIn, which I sent you an invitation to connect. And it said part-time passion was economic development, transformational change for entrepreneurial leaders of the developing world. And that caught my attention because I love the whole entrepreneurial spirit. And I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that a little bit.
That's an interesting find you got there. Well, basically, what I've been doing, and my wife and I have done this together, and I've done it by myself, but we've traveled to different countries, particularly countries in Africa, and we've worked with people there, especially people who want to get into business. In those countries, it's there's lots of unemployment, and the only way to actually make some money is to do something, and start a little trading company or make something or figure out how to make a dollar. And
Okay.
so they need lots of help when it comes to how to start a business and how to manage their finances and how to do marketing and sales and just how to be ethical and how to be honest and how to conduct themselves in the real world. So we
Okay.
we teach the rudimentary basics of business. And
Is
so we
there is there
go ahead.
like a business, like a not for profit business that you run that is focused on that?
No, I don't run anything like that. I usually team up with somebody
Okay.
typically. Yeah.
Interesting. And how did you get into that? Were you like, oh, there needs to be more awareness for these people that are struggling to make a buck. I can go teach them. How did that come to be?
Well, I think that came through our church that I'm a part of, and
Okay.
there was a team of people that wanted to go to Zimbabwe, and my wife was one of them.
Okay.
So I wasn't really that interested. But when I thought about it, she was going to be gone for, I don't know, 3 weeks. I said, I don't want to be here by myself. So I said, you know what? I'm signing up. I'll go.
Okay.
And that was a little bit with fear and trepidation, of course. I've never been there, but it was a little scary to begin with. But it was a wonderful experience, and we met a lot of neat people and got to know
Yeah.
the locals. And there's nothing to be afraid of, right? But
Nah.
it was really cool. So from there, we just got to build our network and meet people. And then, of course, being that we're in business, we have a couple of businesses. We actually have a real estate company as well,
Okay.
and we bought commercial properties and things like that over
Okay.
the years. And then we run CanAm, and my wife was very active in the business as well. She does all the finance and
Okay.
bookkeeping. So she's the presidential advisor, she likes to say. Anyways,
Yeah.
between the two of us, we work together, and we have fun, and do some things outside of working in the business.
Special thanks to Wolfgang Dombrowski for being with us on the Drywall Podcast today. We appreciate your time and value your wisdom. The months of March and April on the Drywall Podcast are brought to you exclusively by CanAm Tools. You can head over to the CanAm Tool website, canamtools.com, and receive a discount throughout the months of March and April if you enter promo code TDP15. The Drywall Podcast was also brought to you by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. Now you can get Fresco Harmony if you go to csrbuilding.com. If you have questions about the Drywall Podcast, CanAm Tools, Fresco Harmony, or anything, you can email me directly at info@frescoharmony.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Drywall Podcast today. I sincerely appreciate it. Tune in next Friday when we have another amazing adventure in drywall with the great Kevin Bush, episode 2 of our ongoing series with him. But until then, keep drywalling.